this was when I first came out. Cops just do dumb stuff to each other all the time. But I went to a building search with another buddy of mine. He was a K-9 at the time, and I did leave my car door unlocked, which was always a mistake. Shouldn't do that.
Yeah, which I hadn't. Remember that part of the story?
Yeah, yeah. So we come back, and we search the building, and like I said, he was K-9. And so come back, I get in my car door, and it just smells like somebody slipping in some dog doo, right? So my car stinks like dog doo. So, I'm just thinking like, man, I stepped in some. I'm checking the bottom of my boots, and nothing. So I'm checking the car, the floorboards, nothing. And it's so bad that I'm driving down the road, and I got to have all the windows rolled down because it's smelling. It's just smelling pretty bad. I end the shift, and I never tell anybody about it, but I end the shift, and still just baffled, And a couple of months later, I'm talking to my buddy about it, the same guy, and I'm like, I think your dog, but I couldn't, I stepped in or something, I couldn't find anything on there. He's like, man, starts laughing. He's like, he did go out there in the, yard or the front, and so your car door is unlocked, so we put it under your car seat.
Told you about it 2 months after the fact?
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
So I'm sure every officer, we rotate cars. So
people share those cars, so that was a joke that went for several shifts.
Yeah. Everybody got to enjoy that joke.
And the fun just kept going.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It just got real.
Just got real.
We'd like to give a huge thank you to Kelly Arredondo at Texas Tech Credit Union. She's a mortgage loan officer holding the prestigious Zenix Certified Originator Certificate, and at Texas Tech Credit Union, they operate according to their 5 core values: trust, respect, excellence, kindness, and stewardship. That's why they value the contributions of each of their members. They also give a best rate guarantee, so if you find another mortgage company in town that gives you a better rate, if they can't match or beat that rate, they will give you $1,000. Thank you to Kelly Arredondo and Texas Tech Credit Union. I'm Derek.
I'm Shaye.
And I'm Sam.
And we're excited to present you today's guest.
Yep.
Thanks for being on board, bud. Sam, I'm going to let you introduce him.
Yeah, we got Sergeant Toby Hudson. He's with the Amarillo Police Department. We have worked together for a long time, and Toby Hudson Sergeant Hudson has several roles at the police department, in his official capacity and in an off-duty official capacity. Hudson, would you just briefly tell us a little bit about what you do and what roles you have?
Yeah, it's really weird that you call me sergeant. I don't like that.
Okay, can I if it's okay, I'll call you Toby.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Currently I'm the SWAT team sergeant. I've been on SWAT for most of my career in some capacity, so that's my official job title. I also teach a lot of disciplines at the police department, defensive tactics and rifle instructor and some other stuff, and I'm also the president of the Amarillo Police Officers Association, which is separate from the department. It's kind of like the working group association for the department. We don't have a union. We can't go picket and strike. That would be a terrible idea. But we do have a union or an association that works for benefits, working benefits and stuff for our officers. So that's another role that I receive zero compensation for.
Right on. Probably has a lot of work for you. Yeah. I'll stick on that for a second. So the association, and you talked about not going on strike. I remember when I was at the police department and we joined the association. That was like the big things. Like, you're asking for these benefits. Well, what's the repercussion if you don't get these benefits? Are you going to go on strike? Are you going to what is by law, you can't go on strike. So tell us a little bit about what does it look like as an association to go to the city with some of the requests that you have, and what are some of the requests that you have had?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, right? So Policing these days is scrutinized more than ever. Obviously, everybody watches the news and CNN and TikTok and all that kind of stuff. So getting people to apply to come be police officers is hard. It's a struggle right now, and it has been for the last 8-10 years or so. And the young people that are willing to do it are fewer and fewer. So really, you've just got to present the argument that we've got to do something to bolster these numbers. We don't just want people; we want quality people. We want ethical people. We want good people to come do this job. And it's hard to get guys to do that because of the liability of it, because of the danger of it, because of all the things that you think about when you talk about being a police officer, and then you add the economics on top of that. So people are going to go where the money is, right? And police officers have never made a whole bunch of money, and that's not what it's about. I live a comfortable life, and I'm happy with my choices, but people have families to think about, right? So you've got to be able
to put food on the table.
Yeah, you got to put food on the table. You got to take care of your family and your kids. So I try to approach it at that route, just a logical, practical route, and show them the numbers. Hey, this is how many people used to apply for this job. This was the pool we're picking from, and now here's the pool. It's a lot smaller, so we're scooping out of a smaller pool. You're going to get some fish that you're not really wanting to get. So the way the process works, a short version of it is people apply to get into a police academy, and they take a test, a standardized test, and it's ranked, from top to bottom, high score to low score. And we used to, after that process, you start doing backgrounds on people. Obviously, people get eliminated for backgrounds, history, criminal history, or debt, or that kind of stuff. And so they have a long list of things that they look at in your background. And we used to never even get to the bottom of the list doing backgrounds.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just maybe the top half of the people that took the test. Well, now we exhaust the list all the way to the bottom.
Wow.
So in theory, there's people that are becoming police officers, not just Amarillo, but all over the place, that would not have made it 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
And so that's another point that I keep trying to make is just because we might have an academy doesn't mean it's the same quality as the one that it used to be. Of course, everybody says it was always better in the old
good
days,
old
right?
days.
Yeah,
It's good old days.
It's always better in the good old days, and not necessarily we've got great people, but it is very difficult. You can't just recruit out of the hometown anymore. You got to go out. You got to expand.
Right, and it seems like, to me, it seems like when I was on the police department, we were working a little bit with this. It seemed like the city council or the people that you come to with these presentations and facts and knowledge and evidence were pretty open to that communication. I'll say that maybe from time to time there weren't, but it seems like at least in the last few years that I was there that they became more open to that. Do you still see that, or of course we got a new city council coming in. Do you still see that, or do you see that there's still some progress to go?
There's always progress to go. I've never spoken to anybody running for office that says they're anti-law enforcement or anti-first responder, at least in this area. Obviously, we're very blessed to be in Amarillo. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of support, so maybe we don't make as much money as a lot of places, but I do feel the support of Amarillo. So Amarillo's always been behind the badge, and I've always appreciated that about where we are. But you're right. Yeah, there's competing interests, right? There's only so much money to go around, so police department needs raises, or they need equipment. So does the fire department. The streets need fixed. The trash needs taken out. So you can only do so much with what you have. Texas legislature has limited the amount of property taxes that can be raised in a municipality, so it's very hard to raise taxes and take that money and apply it to needs that are coming up, or ever expanding costs. So I don't envy those guys. I know that. I don't think I would want to be a council person because it's hard. You're going to have to say no to a few things, but all we can do is put our best case forward. And I always say, there might be certain positions within the government that don't cost you a lot of money, but picking bad police officers can cost a city or a county or a state a lot of money if they're doing something wrong or illegal, or they're not bright enough to do the job and they make bad decisions. So that's the liability part of it is something to take into account when you're trying to prioritize those needs.
Exactly. And with that, one of the things that I always found when I was at the police department and, doing training in other areas, just talking about Amarillo specifics, if you're listening, you're like wondering if Amarillo is the place for you to come. I will say when I was there, one of the things that was never lacking at the police department was training.
No.
Yeah, I think that, you'll find, because believe me, I've been to other places, that the Amarillo police officer is probably one of the best trained police officers that I've seen.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you guys may not know it, Sammy was a phenomenal police officer. He was also a phenomenal training officer. He taught a lot of guys the ropes, including guys like me. He was there before I was there, and I learned a lot from him out on the street. But Amarillo itself and the department has always emphasized training, so I'm very blessed to go all over the country and do some training with other departments and go to some leadership schools and some instructor schools, and I'm always come back impressed that generally our officers are better trained than a lot of instructors are around the rest of the country, and whether that's because they don't prioritize training or they don't have the budget for it or the money, or they're too busy. I don't know what it is, but the cops here are really knowledgeable in what they do, and they take their tactics seriously. And obviously we're jaded towards the APD, both of us, but man, I've seen it all over the place. We are lucky. We're really lucky.
Well, thank you, brother. And I mean, the end result of that, what we're talking about is a safer, it's safer for the officer, and really it's safer for the community. Another question I want to ask is, okay, so, we have a law enforcement background, and I would say that, as you said, 95% plus of the community backs us, but, a lot of people don't see that from day to day. And but if you could just say, if there's one thing that you would, talking to the guys on the street, talking to the police officers, is there one thing that the community could do right now that would help the average cop on the street? Like, is there one thing that they could do, that they need?
I'd like for everybody just to be educated on the issues, number one, and then always look at each city and each area of the country, each area of the state is kind of unique. We're in West Texas, man. There's a lot of right-leaning, Second Amendment kind of thinking here in Amarillo, and I don't have any problem with that. We have a lot of guns in Amarillo, like a lot, right? I own a lot of guns. I'm a gun owner myself. I've seen over the last 20 years or so, more and more of these guns falling into the wrong hands. Lots of kids have them now. And I'm talking kids like high school age kids are doing these shootings out on the weekend, whether that's drive-bys or just shooting out in the air in the park, whatever it is. Where these kids are coming up with these guns fascinates me. I don't really understand that. A lot of them are stolen out of cars that are either left unlocked or even they're locked out and parked in front of their cars. Sometimes they get taken in burglaries from people's houses that are locked, and so there's not a ton you can do about that, but lock them up, secure them. I'm not saying don't have access to them. I'm saying when you're not there, don't make it easy to get to them, right? Because we find them everywhere. I mean, you and I worked the streets 20 years ago, and it was pretty normal, I guess, to run into maybe pull a gun off of a guy every week or so.
Yeah.
It's every day now.
It's amazing.
Every day. It's pretty crazy, and frankly, it gets a little scary. Open carry has changed things a little bit, and people are allowed to carry, and I don't have any issue with responsible people carrying guns, but there's no need for a 16-year-old kid to be toting around a pistol in his waistband. So we as a community have to figure out how to stop them from getting access to that. It's not, the police aren't going to do it.
Yeah.
That's that is amazing. I didn't know that difference. And something that that I'm curious about, because I retired in 2016. Before the last few years of what I see as societal and cultural changes, man, and that comes all the way down from the family. I mean, all the way down to the family unit, but it has a huge effect. After I got out of policing, I went into coaching and teaching, and I saw it in the schools. Would you think that in the last few years there's been a cultural? Do you see it too? Do you see a cultural change?
Major. It's an anti-authority feeling all over the country, and like I said, Amarillo is better than most places, but there's still that, it permeates a little bit when you see it on social media and you see it on TV, and it's kind of encouraged to buck authority now. And we have freedom of speech, and we have the right to peaceful protest and all that. Man, I believe in the Constitution and all the rights afforded from it. But at some point, it just seems like everybody's angry because they're angry. They don't really have a true reason to be upset. Everybody just wants to buck the system. Mm-hmm. And like you said, yeah, my wife's a school teacher. Holy cow, man, I can't believe what happens in schools, what kids can say and do, and then their parents come in and basically back them up, tell them, the teacher's wrong, the administrators are wrong. And I'm not saying we're not wrong, and sometimes the police can be wrong, school teachers can be wrong, your boss can be wrong, but it seems like there's just much more of a feeling these days of don't tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. I don't really know where it comes from, but it's definitely permeated our society, and I see that as a major problem. Like you said, starts in the family.
100%.
100%. Yeah. That's actually what I was going to touch on, is I think, the cultural shift we've seen over the past 3 to 5 years or so has definitely made me have important conversations with people that are kind of similar minds. I mean, up in Oregon, one of my best friends was the sergeant of the Corvallis Police Department. This man was also an African male man who grew up on the streets in inner city Chicago. So you talk about a unique perspective when all that was going on, right? And me and him were going for a walk one day, and I said, there's another young gentleman that I was trying to reach who was having a hard time with social injustice and all the things that were happening. And I just said, man, like, how do I really reach him whenever, we come from different backgrounds, we have different skin colors, and my dear friend looked at me and he said, Derek, he said, everybody's trying to get behind something because everybody's emotional and they're trying to just do what their feelings are telling them to do. He said, but I'm going to be honest with you. He said, everybody needs the gospel truth of Jesus, man. He said, if we would all preach that and it starts in the home, he said, that's all these people need. They don't need another bandwagon emotional charge to get behind. And I think that directly comes down to what we as parents, what we as a society are doing in our homes. And I'm sure we'll take flack for that, but I stand by what I say. I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's one of the most important values. Morality comes down to what we as parents are handing off to the next generation. How are we raising them up? What are we putting in front of them on a TV? What are we putting in front of them to listen to? What are we putting in front of them to do at school? How are we talking through issues at school that they're facing? It's a lot of that can be solved in the home. Not everything. Life is going to happen, and your kids are going to get outside your walls. But how are you teaching them through those moments to come back to morality and to be a decent human being and do the right thing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's conversations that my wife and I have all the time. We have a 20-month-old at home, and then we have another one due here in the next couple of weeks. And that's conversations that we have. I mean, we talk about it all the time. I mean, Derek, you have little kids in school right now, and just thinking about what that's going to be like when our boy's in school and when our second boy is getting into school, like, I mean, just trying to talk through and walk through all of those different things, the things that maybe are not in line with what we believe, but at the same time bringing it all back to knowing what we believe and instilling that into our kids. And they need to know what they believe, because they believe it and because we were the example and we lived it out. Not just because of somebody that you watched a video on YouTube or TikTok and it was like, just because this person said that this is the right way of doing things, or this is how you should be doing this. Like, I don't know. That's a challenge. I mean, we're just, we talk about it so much because it's a big, and it's a big topic in our home, because we want our boys to be raised in a way that's going to be honoring to people, and just loving towards people. And there's so much that goes into that. So
I'm thankful for everything that APD does, because at the end of the day,
100%.
like, when we raise kids in the streets and stuff, I think it takes a special person in service, somebody with whether in the moments, because some people come from messed up backgrounds. Some people have things that happen to them in life, but I love people that can give themselves up in such a way for service in a community to where, man, your life is on the line every night. Police officers' lives are on the line every day, and our first responders put themselves in situations that none of us do on a day-to-day basis, and I think there's something heroic behind that, and I think there's something right with that. And one thing you touched on, Toby, was this kind of wrestle and tussle with authority, and I see that too, and I think again, it comes back to teaching that actual authority is actually a blessing in your life.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a blessing. You're supposed to have authority figures in your life, and that is actually good for you. Because if you don't have an authority person, even the Bible says, seek wise counsel and things, right? Like, how are you going to seek wise counsel if there aren't people who are leading you through things in life? And I think it takes special people like yourself in the community to be able to lead a group of people to a common goal. And I think it's very important today more than ever, because it's not the popular thing to do.
That's right.
The popular thing to do is to completely run the other way. And so I applaud you. I thank you guys for what you do. Sam,
Absolutely.
you too. You were there too.
Thanks, man.
Thanks. Some of us do this job because we don't have any other skills. That's what I always tell people. I literally can't build anything, fix anything. I don't have any man skills. This is all I know how to do. But yeah, you guys are right. The Bible grants authority, and it even says sometimes it grants unrighteous authority.
Yep.
But God has placed those people, and we have checks and balances to make sure that authority is not acting outside its scope.
Yep.
Sometimes we just have to trust the process. Nobody trusts the process anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you've hit on exactly what I wanted to talk about. And one of the things that I think in the end is that one of the roots is a lack of leadership. And I do want to talk about that a minute. You've been in the police department for a long time. You've chosen to go into leadership roles with different avenues. In the police department, outside of the police department. What do you look for in leadership? What does a good leader look like to you?
Man, that's such a hard thing to define. You don't feel any different when you take on a leadership role, right? So one day you're doing the work, and the next day you're put in this position, whether it's voluntary or somebody put you there, and you're like, well, I don't feel special. I don't feel like I could lead these guys or gals with any special skills. So, in my mind, I try and do a lot of reading and follow some leadership examples, but everybody's a little unique, and it depends on the situation that you're in and who you're trying to lead, right? Are you leading, rookie officers that need a lot of direction? Mm-hmm. Are you leading some veteran guys that, kind of know what they're doing? And so that's more of a hands-off approach, and just kind of guide and steer a little bit, give them the stuff that they need and step out of the way. That's kind of my job. I just know that, probably the first and foremost thing I think about when I'm talking about being in charge of people is being humble, and humility will go a long way, and not just owning a mistake, but calling yourself out for a mistake. Because, sometimes, whether you're supervising or you're in charge of something, they see when you make a mistake.
Right. It's not unknown.
Yeah, they're not going to call you out, right? They're not going to say, hey, Sarge, you really screwed that up, So it's really up to you to do that and say, hey, guys, man, I messed that deal up. That's my fault. I'm going to own it and, Jocko Willink and those guys talk about extreme ownership. I think owning your mistake is the first thing you can do in front of people to show that, number one, he's no different than the rest of us. He messes up, and that frees them up to not be so, tight and tense with whatever it is they're doing and walking on eggshells. Hey, man, he screwed that up. He's given me some room to screw some stuff up myself.
Right. It's going to have some grace for that.
Yeah. Give grace, get grace. And so, that's number one. Try not to be any more than you are. If you just happen to be chosen to be in charge, just be who you've always been. I think a lot of people try to fill shoes instead of just wear the ones that they got on their feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good, man. I mean, I think of, again, back to the police department, and this goes for the business world too. I mean, if you're wanting to know, maybe how to be better in the home, in the business, wherever you're at, because this applies the same at home, right? Be the dad who's humble, be the dad who's ready to, like you said, admit the mistakes. And one of the things I heard you say years ago that I really latched onto, and just sometimes it's just one statement. It's like you would say, I'm not a great guy, but I work with a lot of great guys. That's that sign of
absolutely
that humility that we're talking about, and that there's some people in leadership roles that are just, as you said, they have that functional authority. They're there because they got the promotion for whatever reason, but that doesn't really exude the leadership qualities that we're talking about.
Yeah, you've got, I always break it down into two categories. Authority is granted and influence is earned. And so, you may be put in that position to have some authority over something, no matter what that is, but the influence you have over people can be from anywhere. And so if they see you doing the right thing and working hard and wanting to take care of people, then, that influence spreads, and there's really nothing you can do about that. So I would tell people, be influential, don't be authoritative,
I love that.
Absolutely.
Man, that's good.
I want to talk about some of the things that the police department or the Police Officers Association is doing, for the community. But before that, I want to ask if there's a person that's feeling led to become a police officer, it's just whether led to a heart of service, what is one piece of advice that you would give them in doing that?
Man, yeah, I want those people to call me for sure. And please apply if they're really led to do that. Yeah. It's definitely not going to make you a lot of money. You're not going to be super famous doing it, but it's very satisfying. I personally can't think about going home at the end of a day's work and not feeling like you made a difference somewhere at some point in somebody's lives. And you can do that a lot of different ways. Police work is just one way to do that. But if that's what they're after, then it's a deeply satisfying career. So seek that out. Start getting in shape. You know better than anybody. Once you decide to be a cop, you kind of sign that right away to be out of shape. That's how I believe it. I know that's what you think. Mm-hmm. We worked out together for a long time, and you actually kind of lose a piece of yourself when you become an officer. So make sure you're willing to do that, willing to give that up. And you don't have to be like a CrossFit maniac or anything. You just got to be able to take care of yourself. You got to be able to take care of other people. Mm-hmm. And so get in shape, expand your mind a little bit, do some reading about law and police work, and make sure you're ready to kind of work some shift work for sure. Yeah, we worked midnights for many years. And it doesn't sound like I'm advertising it very well, do I? I'm not very good. It's not a brochure, is it?
No, somebody's listening out there and like, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, but seriously, it's so much fun. And hey, let's admit it. You don't get to go to a job very often where you get to go to the range and shoot guns, get to the track and drive cars fast and learn how to take people down and all that kind of stuff. It's a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a blast, and it is changing. It will change your heart. It'll change your soul to where you you do have that heart of service, and I know I certainly did and still do. And last thing I would add on to that, if you are seriously thinking about that, this is just my small nugget of advice. Look now and do a self-examination of who you are deciding to be friends with, because I'm telling you, that's going to make a huge difference, and just start, being with the people who that you wouldn't mind taking home to your grandma and introduce them to. So
make sure what you're putting on social media, you would let your mom read, right?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Because they're going to look at that. I don't know how to do it, but those people that do the backgrounds know how. They've got social media. I don't.
I'm just glad you got away from the flip phone, like I said.
Yeah, man. I'm moving up in the world.
All right, so I want to talk about something that the association does from year to year. But I will tell you before you start, I'm like, if you need someone, I mean, I know
where this is going. I already know.
I was recruited back in the day for a professional softball league. I had recruiters out there.
Professional, he said.
Yes. I
didn't even know softball was professional.
Yeah, it is.
Are you talking about like on ESPN 8 the Ocho? Like type of?
It could be. My career was ruined. When I slammed one. It was a rocket to second base. It was a grounder. It was a rocket. And so, I was pretty sure that the second baseman was going to handle it, not knowing it was a rocket. So I just kind of jogged to first base because I thought I was going to be out. But he mishandled it, so I thought I had a chance. So I kicked it up into, hyperdrive.
I love this.
And pulled a hammy.
Man.
It popped. I pulled a hammy. And so, they actually had to get a pinch runner out there for me. And
golly, boy.
So the recruiters kind of fell off. So now I just make a living
Stop
off
getting those phone calls.
Yeah.
If you'd have just hit that home run, you wouldn't have had to sprint at first base. Right?
True. That's true. So now I just have to live through endorsements.
Oh, my gosh.
Anyway, so you do
This room is getting so deep.
No, it's bad. I know. Tell us about what you do. You do have a softball game every year. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we play a boots and badges softball game. So it's the fireman and the policeman, and it's kind of at the end of the boots and badges blood drive that we do with Coffee Memorial every year. So we do a big blood drive campaign, and it's it's kind of a friendly competition, policeman versus fireman, and come donate blood, get a lot of goodies, and choose your favorite first responder. At the end of that campaign, we do the softball game. It started out the Dilla Villa 15 years ago.
Right.
And yes, Sammy did play with us at the Dilla Villa.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was there.
I was kind of a backup at the time, but
yeah, he was still
still
rehabbing that hamstring. He wasn't 100% yet.
Yeah.
You got off the electromagnetic machine that just like sits there and gives you a pulse right there on your hamstring.
Yeah,
He
was back in the training room, we started that game so many years ago, and people didn't think it was very serious, but these guys, there's some legit ball players on both sides that hit the ball out of the ballpark. It's ridiculous. Me not being one of them. I do not do that. But and it's carried over every year. It's grown. It's at Hodgetown now. Those guys were kind of skeptical when we took it to them and wanted to move it into the new ballpark the first year. But there was guys hitting balls out of that ballpark too. It's crazy. But several thousand people show up and watch these old washed up policemen versus these young in shape firemen play this charity softball game, and all the money benefits two causes. It's split between the Coffee Memorial Blood Center, which originally started it, and the 100 Club of the Texas Panhandle.
Absolutely.
So cool.
Awesome. Yeah. And the 100 Club, tell us a little bit about, or what you do know about that. I know it benefits police officers and firefighters. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, the 100 Club is an amazing organization. So they pay out, unfortunately, benefits to the families of officers or firemen, first responders that are injured or killed in the line of duty. They kind of bridge that gap that happens. You guys know, maybe in the business world, things aren't always that fast with paperwork and payouts and insurance and those kind of things. So it can be months, even years before these families are able to settle these insurance claims and stuff. So they actually present a $20,000 check to a family that loses a first responder, and so that's
amazing.
That's just a stopgap to let them kind of breathe a little bit, take care of bills, pay funeral costs, and that kind of stuff. It's a really somber reality, but those guys work really hard to raise the money for that. And their secondary mission, on top of that, is they spend money on needed equipment for departments that can't afford it. Lots of small departments around the Panhandle may need some fire truck repair, or some breathing apparatuses for firemen, or those policemen may need some bulletproof vests because they're too old and their county can't afford it. So they step in and buy that kind of stuff. So the 100 Club is amazing, and it's $100 a year to be a member. And so you just, for an individual, businesses can get in it. I believe small businesses can do it for $1,000 a year, but all that money stays local and benefits local first responders.
Awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, that's really good.
Awesome. Well, that's that's something, a cause that people should definitely look forward to. Not only do you see an awesome game, but it goes to those causes, as well as, like I said, like you were saying, the Coffin Memorial Blood Center, which does so much good work, and not only in Amarillo but the Panhandle. What about the Police Officers Association? Is there a way? Because I've been out for a long time. Is there a way for a citizen that wants to support the Police Officers Association, that they can do either monetarily or by service or anything like that? Yeah,
we do. We do have a website, so I've stepped up into the modern world. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Amarillo POA.org, I believe. You have to look it up. Search it. Amarillo Police Officers Association. The first thing that pops up is the website. Click on it, and there is a donate button on there for that, so you can do it online. I believe there's also a P.O. box on there that you can mail a check to if you feel so inclined. But really, I just want you to go out and support those causes, because that's what we do. We turn around and take that money that's not expense money for our building and upkeep and all that, and we give it back to the community. So either way works. But yeah, Coffee Memorial's big on our radar. We've been partnering with them for a long time. The 100 Club, same thing. We do some other stuff, like we do some gift card giveaways at Christmas, where we just kind of buy some random gift cards at Walmart and walk around at Christmas time and give them to families that look like they could use it. And I've got anywhere from crying hugs to you're lying and you're not a cop. And then they go up and scan the card and find out it's got real money on it, and they come back and tell us thank you. But officers don't always get a chance to meet people in the public and have a positive interaction. We're generally there on their worst day of their life.
Exactly.
And sometimes that's kind of hard to take. So it's good to go meet people in other circumstances and give back to the community. So
exactly. And I will say this, just in my closing thought is just thinking of this. Police officers they have that authority figure by statute and by their presence, no doubt. But they are the people that are in your community. They're your neighbors. They live around the block from you. They're at the gym with you. They're the people they're coaching your kids' football team. They're coaching your kids' soccer team. They are the people that are there with you. They're flesh and blood right behind the badge.
Yeah, everybody knows a cop, right? Especially because we know when you pull somebody over, everybody has that cop friend, right? But we're just people, and we have good days and bad days, and got stuff on our minds that we worry about at home, and all of that sometimes carries over into your work. So I guess just a little grace goes a long way both directions, right? So everybody has had an interaction with a cop and said, "Man, that guy wasn't very nice." Maybe he wasn't very nice. Maybe he had a really rough day. Maybe he or she, got some bad news or whatever it was. So nobody wants bad cops out of the profession more than good cops.
Sure.
And so we work really hard to weed those applicants out, weed them out through the academy, weed them out earlier in their career, because they give all of us a bad name, right? So we don't want those. We don't want those folks. We want people of integrity. We want people that care. We want people that want to do the right thing. So I'm probably going off on a little bit of a trail here, but yeah, a little bit of grace both directions is awesome.
I got a last kind of thought question too is, Toby, what's your hope for the APD looking forward? Like what's the hope in your mind and the hope for the academy and everything? What is just the general hope you have for APD?
Well, yeah, short term is I'd love to get our numbers back up and really be able to start getting back out in the community. You know, these guys, I say these guys because I'm not in a position to be out there answering calls anymore, but these guys run call to call all day long. The radio never stops, even at 3 a.m. when most of us are asleep. Those guys are constantly answering calls. And so, you know, my hope is to get our numbers back up and to give those guys a little bit of support and to remind our officers that our city is really behind us, man. Always are. Sometimes you get in that rut as an officer too, because all you're doing is responding to bad stuff, bad incident after bad incident after bad incident. You don't remember that, man, there's a lot of good people out there that really appreciate what you do. And that in itself can kind of set you in a mindset of you know, the world is bad, and we don't want to stick our heads in the sand. Bad stuff happens in this world, but the world is good. Right. God created it that way, and people here in this city are good, and most everybody wants to do the right thing. We just need a gentle reminder, I think, of what the authority is there for, and what it does for all of us. Not exactly what it's doing to you at the time, but what it does for the rest of us.
And I think a little kindness goes a long way too. I think, you know, we've been adamant on this podcast to make sure that we thank all first responders because, as I mentioned earlier, you guys are heroes, man. In my eyes, you're doing things that just the normal everyday citizen isn't, and I think that deserves a lot of respect and a lot of kindness. I mean, so just for the community out there and the listeners out there, if you see a first responder, go out of your way and thank them. Say thank you. Thank you goes a long way. Kindness goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. It is always appreciated.
Absolutely. So, hey, we're going to put down one last thing I forgot. Do you have the dates for us so we can put that out for the blood drive and for the game? And we'll make sure to put it in the description too.
Yeah, absolutely. June 30th is the Boots and Badges blood drive kickoff out at Coffee Memorial. It's from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. We'll be out there all day. We take all the vehicles out there, the SWAT vehicles, the response vehicles, the bomb truck. The fire department brings some stuff too, but we're not really worried about those guys, right?
Hope they don't get a flat.
Yeah, the police association, not the firemen, the police association's cooking hamburgers and hot dogs for lunch for everybody. So you guys show up there, donate some blood, get a bunch of free goodies. And then the softball game is August 12th, Saturday, August 12th. It's at 7 p.m. Gates open at 6. It's run just like a regular sod poodle game, just with probably one notch lower quality athletes or aging athletes like myself.
Yeah, exactly. Sam will be there to sign.
He'll be icing his hammy on the bench,
that's
though.
right.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm just saying. I'm just gonna throw this one last thing. I've already checked my calendar. I'm available.
I'll send Sam a private tryout date. Maybe a combine. We can have like a softball combine.
This will be further continued on Sam's YouTube channel. This will have to happen.
I'm just saying, I'm open. So
okay,
anyway,
I'll check the roster. Buddy.
Okay, check that. Okay, yeah, we'll make sure to put those dates in there. I guarantee you're gonna have a good time at both of those events. Check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me, man. This was fun. It's my first podcast. I feel like a real hipster. This is awesome.
Be ready for that. Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you.
Yeah,
thank you for all you do. Thank you for everything, man. Again, guys, go support your community. Go support your first responders. Say thank you. Appreciate you listening. Thanks to tuning in and keep it real.
I don't.